What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. And in this video, I'll be taking you through my very own wildcard draft for the upcoming Game Week 8. So if you guys have been enjoying your international break, don't worry, you don't exactly have to get back into the FPL way of things just yet. But for those of you that want to, this is going to be the exact video for that. It's basically covering the players to target for the next few game weeks. So yes, even though it is a wildcard draft, as I always say, the wildcard drafts can be used by those of us not on the chip, as it gives you a goal of the squad you probably want to get to with those free transfers. So don't worry, you guys haven't missed out on any detail. I actually wildcarded a few game weeks ago in Game Week 6, so selfishly, I actually want to see how different my team is to the Game Week 8 wildcard. So what better way to do than actually create a draft? So my team selection as well as the ultimate guide are going to be coming up in the future days, so we'll be getting back into the FPL way of things as the week does progress. It does feel good to be back. But if you guys want to see my wildcard draft, sit back, relax, and let's get right into it. So the wildcard in Game Week 8 does seem to be a popular strategy, and what I would do is that if you guys still have the bench boost, I would pair your wildcard with the bench boost, probably aiming for around Game Week 9. The reason Game Week 9 should be quite popular is that your cheap options have pretty good fixtures. So if you guys still do have the bench boost, I might take some value out of the starting 11 and put it in the bench. As you guys can see on the far right hand side, you won't be able to spend any money in the bank because I could afford this draft with 0.0 in the bank. So let's go over the wildcard draft as I always do in terms of level of importance. Let's get the one position that's probably going to unlock a bunch of other positions, and that's the goalkeepers. So as you guys can see, I've actually opted for Nick Pope between the sticks alongside Dubravka. He's a no-brainer because he's just so cheap. Now as mentioned, this is probably going to unlock other positions. Because there's no Raya here, I've decided to double up in a different position. And also want to highlight here is that if you guys can't afford this draft, I would downgrade Nick Pope to probably Petrovic. That gives you about 0.6 to downgrade. That's perfect value, as I do still back the Bournemouth goalkeeper. I just feel like Nick Pope might be worth that extra bit of value. Newcastle look decent for the clean sheets, and Nick Pope is also racking up a few saves. But as mentioned, one of the most flexible positions here, if you guys want to downgrade him, upgrade him, you guys can. Hopefully not too much between the goalkeepers in the next few game weeks. I have highlighted though the fact that Newcastle are looking really decent for XG conceded, one of the best defenses, and if they can keep it up, Nick Pope is going to be great value for money. Now the biggest no-brainer of any wildcard draft is going to be the big man up front, the Norwegian Erling Haaland, and he's returned early from international break to get some rest before Man City's next fixture. So you guys might as well just slap the Kamsi armband on him already, because against Everton at home, he's the best captain, and that was probably without even the rest. Now the biggest thing about the Game Week 8 wildcard is what premiums that you guys want to go for. Now in this draft, I've actually only opted for Erling Haaland, as I just feel like you guys won't go anywhere else for captaincy. Now yes, the fixtures do get tougher, but with the way Erling Haaland is playing, he just seems like an absolute goal machine. I can't even see him scoring against these tougher teams. Now there might be some question marks about fitness with the Champions League or these other competitions. There could be a rest upcoming, but it just seems like Erling Haaland is playing 90 minutes every single game. So it might be a risk only going for one premium, but you guys can also go for Salah, Haaland. I just didn't like the draft with both of them in the squad. You guys might think otherwise in the comments down below. Yes, it might be a differential strategy to actually go for Salah plus Haaland, but I prefer to spread the funds, and the starting 11 just looks a lot better. Now even with no Salah, we still do have a quite expensive midfielder, and that's going to be Bukayo Saka, back in the starting 11 after scoring that penalty. Now that's basically been the talk of the town this international break. Who's on penalties for Arsenal? I guess no one knows. But on a wildcard, the definite plan though is to go for Saka, as he is in the conversation. The only reason we were going for Goalkeeper is the fact that we thought he was the main penalty taker, but from what I can see, it seems like Saka is going to be in the mix for at least a few. That evens the odds. I do prefer Saka overall as a footballer. He just seems better, and that's why it's a no-brainer going for him on a wildcard. But if you guys have Goalkeeper, you can still just keep him. Now also, I've actually dropped Bruno Fernandes in this team, so Saka is going to be our most expensive midfielder. And then comes another no-brainer, and that's Semenyo. Now yes, the Bournemouth fixtures might get a little bit tougher, but I just feel like the form he's on, you have to go for him. Absolutely balling at the moment. So it does kind of give the indication that there's going to be no Bruno Fernandes in this lineup, and I just kind of feel like United aren't at the best place. Bruno isn't scoring the points. Yes, if he scored those 2 penalties, it might be a different conversation, but he didn't. I just couldn't justify paying the amount of money on the wildcard. It seems like DEFCON is his only threat at the moment. Now I want to actually go back to our defensive department because this kind of locks it in. We've got 2 open spots. I'm not going to go for Goalkeeper if I go for Saka. And if I've gone for the double up of Gabriel plus Timber. Now Gabriel's an absolute no-brainer, you guys should definitely go there, but Timber versus Raya is an interesting debate. Yes, Timber might miss the occasional game in the future, but I think he makes up for it with that attacking threat. Also, the added DEFCON bonus points could be there for Timber at the end of the day, and that's why I think he's worth the extra 0.4 over Raya. But you guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. I just feel like Arsenal are such a great defense. Adding some attacking threat just makes them even better, and that's what exactly Timber does. I also kind of feel like there might be a no-brainer in the middle of the defense, and that's going to be Senesi. Yes, he missed out on DEFCON in the last game week, but I still feel like he's a great asset. Now if you guys are going to go for Petrovic, you can actually go for the double up in the Bournemouth defense, as Senesi should be getting DEFCON basically every single game. This back 3, I can kind of just seeing you start them every single game. This back 3 just looks that outstanding, but don't worry, we do have some bench coverage if need be. So now that we've completed the defense, let's turn our attention back to the attack, and I do believe that João Pedro should be in a wildcard draft, even though his stats have looked simply terrible. I wouldn't recommend going and looking at his shots per the last few game weeks, they've been basically non-existent. But with the rest from that Champions League suspension and the good fixtures, I feel like João Pedro is still a good selection. I also kind of feel like there's not many forward options at the end of the day, but I'm willing to take the punt with Palmer out injured, and I feel like João Pedro has some good fixtures. Now 2 lost midfielders are actually going to be pretty budget. It's going to be Ismail Assar. I just feel like he's great value. You guys know his stats were great from preseason even when he looked at our midfielder review. And with the way Crystal Palace are playing at the moment, they seem like they're going to be absolutely great. Yes, they might have lost that unbeaten run, but they can just start a new one and get back to the 19 games. And I just feel like Sarr at his price point is a simple no-brainer with the way they're playing. Only slight concerns there might be the fact that they are playing in those European competitions, and you can be assured that Sarr should be starting in most European games. So I would probably suggest maybe having one midfielder option as I do on the bench, just in case there's the occasional bench. Now the final midfielder is also a little bit of a no-brainer at the moment with Cole Palmer out injured. I've actually doubled up on this Chelsea attack. The fixtures are just so good. So Enzo Fernandez does come in as our last starting midfielder. We should hopefully be getting whatever penalty taker is going to be happening in that Chelsea squad with both Enzo and João Pedro. Kind of covers both our bases. Let's just hope that Chelsea get a bunch of penalties. I'm pretty comfortable with this double up as mentioned with those great fixtures. Now that does actually leave a little bit of a sizable budget for our last forward option. Even though there aren't that many great forwards, I feel like Bowen could be a punt worth going for. Yes, I do wish that he was a midfielder getting the extra point per goal and the clean sheet point. But with these good fixtures, I feel like a punt is worthy on a wild card, and that's exactly what Jarrod Bowen provides. So you might be hoping for some new manager bounce. Let's just see what happens with that West Ham team. But as mentioned, the fixtures are going to be there. So with that Jarrod Bowen selection being quite expensive, the bench is going to be super cheap. We're going to start off with Xhaka as my favorite 5.0. Now yes, you can go for Stach from Leeds. He is also a good selection. I do prefer Xhaka though. Seems like he might be a little bit more of a talisman. Could he be on penalties after taking one in the international break? Sunderland have also impressed me, probably the best newly promoted squad out of the 3. And if Xhaka can avoid any of those yellow cards, I think he's still a great selection. That also leaves 8.5, so we're going to go for my favorite 4.5 at the moment, and that's Anderson. If you can bench him for the next few games, game week 10 onwards, he goes on a great fixture run. Yes, you could go for Richards here if you do prefer him, but I think Anderson's the man to go for. Speaking about kind of those DEFCON Kings, Anderson is definitely one of those. Even though Fulham aren't getting the clean sheets, they should hopefully improve in these better fixtures. And I'm going to bench him for the next 2 games if I was to wildcard. Then that leaves a budget option of 4.0, and Rodon at the moment is my favorite. Coming off 0.0 XG involvement in the opening few games, He's had some massive attacking threat. Leeds might not be the best for clean sheets, but he is only 4.0. Now this might change if you guys are bench boosting next week. You could look at a Sunderland option, has a good fixture. So an Alderete is also a good selection if you guys want to go there. That's kind of where you guys have to be a little bit more strategic if you're going to use the bench boost. You could take some money out of the midfield department if you wanted to drop an Enzo to a Caicedo and upgrade the bench. But I think there's enough budget options to actually get away with a good bench boost with some cheap options. Now this is only one wildcard draft that you guys can go for. Another variation as mentioned is a Salah plus Haaland draft, but then you guys have to get that money off the team, and it's quite a lot of money to upgrade Saka for. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys are actually going for one of those drafts. You can post your team if you think it looks pretty good, but I prefer the starting 11 with that budget split. You can also go for Goalkeeper if you really want to, but I do prefer Saka. At least he's in the mix for penalties. He could actually be the main penalty taker. All we know at the moment is at least Saka took the last one. FPL has actually blessed us with some great budget options this season, and Ismaila Sarr, Enzo, their form looks pretty okay. And then obviously you guys know about the DEFCON threat. I have gone quite expensive though with Gabriel plus the Timber double up. In terms of the kind of variation from the Game Week 6 wildcard to this, Saka vs Goalkeeper is a big one, Raya vs Timber is another one. But overall the team structure does look okay, unless you guys want to take punts on someone like a Bowen and an Enzo. I am pretty jealous if you guys do still have the wild card. I think your team can look pretty good and you have been adaptable. Let's see how it plays out in the future game weeks. As mentioned though, tons of videos still to come. My team selection, the ultimate guide coming up shortly. Make sure those notifications are turned on. And then as always, the deadline stream coming up 1 hour before the deadline for Game Week 8. This is basically it for today guys. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you did and subscribe if you have subscribed yet. Tons of content still to come up. But for the time being, I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL and I'm out. Cheers, bye.